Number 1. Barcelona. Philippe Coutinho, 2018. Barcelona paid Liverpool €120 million up front for Philippe Coutinho, with add-ons pushing the total towards €160 million. They sold him to Aston Villa 4 years later for around €20 million. But the fee is only half the story. Coutinho was on a salary reportedly north of €20 million a year on a contract until 2023, which made him effectively unsellable. No club wanted the player at that price, and no club wanted the wages either, so Barcelona kept paying. The worst moment came in 2020. Coutinho was on loan at Bayern Munich when Bayern beat Barcelona 8-2 in the Champions League. He scored twice. Barcelona were still paying part of his salary that night. Total damage, comfortably over €100 million, plus 4 years of wages for a player who spent half of them at other clubs. Number 2. Real Madrid. Eden Hazard, 2019. An initial €100 million, rising to a reported €160 million with add-ons. Real Madrid recouped zero. Hazard arrived as one of the best players in the Premier League and never got fit. 4 seasons, persistent injuries, a metal plate in his ankle, and in the end, he himself rated his impact on the pitch as essentially nothing. In 2023, Madrid tore up the final year of his contract. He left on a free and retired months later, age 32. Here's the accounting detail. When a club terminates a contract early, they can't keep spreading the fee across future seasons. The remaining book value gets written off in one hit. So Madrid didn't just lose the money, they had to swallow the rest of it in a single year's accounts. Number 3. Atletico Madrid. João Felix, 2019 €126 million for a 19-year-old. At the time, the 5th most expensive transfer in football history. What followed was 5 years of loans, Chelsea, Barcelona, Milan, before Atletico eventually offloaded him to Saudi Arabia for a fraction of what they paid. This is the textbook case of amortization risk. Atletico spread that €126 million across a 7-year contract, roughly €18 million a season on the books. Every year, Felix was out on loan. Atletico were still carrying that €18 million charge for a player who wasn't playing for them. The transfer fee is a one-off payment. The accounting damage lasts as long as the contract does. Number 4. Manchester United. Antony, 2022. United paid Ajax a reported £81 million. Some reports say £85 million for Antony in 2022. In September 2025, they sold him to Real Betis for €22 million, plus €3 million in add-ons and a 50% sell-on clause. That's roughly a £60 million cash loss on a player who scored 12 goals in 96 appearances. But here's the number that explains the whole saga. Because of Premier League profit and sustainability rules, United reportedly needed to sell Antony for at least £32.6 million just to avoid booking a loss. That was his remaining book value. They couldn't get it, and the deal nearly collapsed entirely over who would pay off the remainder of his contract. United also gave Paul Pogba away for free in 2022, 6 years after paying £89 million for him. Antony just cost more per goal. Number 5. Arsenal. Nicolas Pepe. 2019 £72 million, a club record at the time, for a winger from Lille. 4 years later, Arsenal terminated his contract and let him leave for nothing. And this one you can actually see in the accounts. Arsenal's financial statements for the year ending May 2023 showed a €60 million overall loss, with roughly €21 million of that attributed to impairment write-downs on player registrations, primarily Pepe's collapse in value. That's what a failed signing actually looks like on paper. Not a headline, a line item. Pepe later said the club told him directly, "We paid €80 million for you. We can't be seen to just let you go." Number 6. Juventus. Cristiano Ronaldo. 2018 €117 million for a 33-year-old. And with Ronaldo, the fee was never the expensive part. His Juventus salary was reported at over €30 million net a year, meaning the gross cost to the club, after Italian tax, was closer to €60 million annually. Across 3 seasons, the wages alone dwarfed the transfer fee. Juventus sold him to Manchester United in 2021 for around €15 million. He scored 101 goals in 134 games. By football logic, he delivered. But Juventus won 0 Champions Leagues with him, lost the Serie A title in his final season, and posted record financial losses that they were still recovering from years later. The most expensive thing about Cristiano Ronaldo was never the transfer. Number 7. Chelsea. Mykhailo Mudryk, 2023. An initial £62 million, potentially rising to £89 million from Shakhtar Donetsk. And an 8.5-year contract. That contract length was deliberate. Chelsea were spreading the cost across as many seasons as possible to keep the annual charge low, roughly £7 million a year on the books instead of £15 million. Then Mudryk tested positive for a banned substance in late 2024 and didn't play a competitive match for 20 months. His ban was only resolved this summer, and he's back in the squad for 2026 to 27. But the accounting never stopped. Every one of those 20 months, that amortization charge kept running. Chelsea were paying for a player they legally could not select. He has 10 goals from 73 appearances so far. The contract still has years left on it. Number 8. Manchester City. Jack Grealish, 2021, £100 million. The first 9-figure transfer between two British clubs, plus wages reported at around £300,000 a week. And unlike everyone else on this list, Grealish actually won things. Premier League titles, a Champions League, a treble in 2023. On trophies, City got what they paid for. But by 2025, he had fallen out of the side entirely and was loaned to Everton, still on a salary most clubs in Europe couldn't touch. This is the version of the problem that nobody warns you about. The signing wasn't a failure on the pitch. It was a failure of value. £100 million and £300,000 a week bought a squad player. Number 9. Tottenham. Tanguy Ndombele, 2019. A club record £55 million from Lyon, and by some distance the most awkward asset Tottenham have ever owned. Jose Mourinho publicly criticized him. He was loaned to Lyon, then Napoli, then Galatasaray. Spurs kept trying to sell him, and kept finding that the combination of his fee and his wages made a permanent deal impossible for anyone. He eventually left for a small fraction of what they paid. The lesson here isn't about the £55 million. It's about what happens to a club's flexibility when one contract goes wrong. Tottenham spent 4 transfer windows working around a player they didn't want. Number 10. Al Hilal. Neymar, 2023. Around €90 million to PSG, and a salary reported at over €150 million a year, which would have made him the highest-paid athlete on earth. He played 7 matches. Then he tore a cruciate ligament, missed most of 2 seasons, and in early 2025, the club terminated the deal. He went back to Santos on a fraction of that money, roughly €90 million in fees and somewhere north of €200 million in wages for 7 appearances. And there's one final wrinkle worth understanding. On the other side of that deal, PSG had owned Neymar for 6 years by 2023, long enough that his €222 million fee was almost fully amortized on their books. So when they sold him for €90 million, in accounting terms, PSG made a profit. The most expensive transfer in football history ended with the selling club booking a gain and the buying club losing nearly everything. That's the difference between what a signing costs and what it's actually worth.